what's going on, everyone? Before we get into our conversation, I want to let you know this podcast is sponsored by BetRivers.com. BetRivers.com, the best place for all your sports gambling needs. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast. You can also watch all of these episodes on the Field of 68 YouTube channel. Now, let's get into our conversation. Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Eric Devendorf, your host of the Scores Table podcast. And today we have another SU legend on. He was a 6'8" point forward, do-it-all, an all-century team member, born in Toronto, Canada, one of the greatest players to ever come out of Canada. He actually made the national team at 16 years old. And if people don't really know, that's something that never happens. And he also later in his career coached the Canadian national team. I appreciate you coming on, Leo Rautins.
Hey, buddy, what's up? Always a pleasure to hang out with you, Eric. You everything good?
Everything good. It's better over there. You got the pool in the background. Like I was telling you, it's 20 degrees here. So we're, regular stuff in the Qs.
Hey, I left the Raptor game the other night, and it's only about a 3-minute walk from the arena to my condo, but it's right by the water in Toronto. It was about 17 degrees. And after 3 minutes, I said, that's it. I'm getting on a plane in the morning. I'm coming back here.
Smart idea. So let's start right there in Canada. Tell me about, obviously Canada being a hockey country. Tell me about growing up playing basketball. How was that?
It was different, right? I was kind of an oddball. The one cool thing is that my family background is Lithuanian, and the national sport in Lithuania is basketball. So even though we were in Toronto, and even though I played hockey like every other Canadian kid, all the Lithuanian kids, we were hooping. And we always had a gym to go to. We had an American influence. Like you had priests that came from the States, and they were all in the ball, right? So they taught us how to play, and it was great. So like the fact that I was Lithuanian really helped. And we used to play in these tournaments. Like we'd actually go around North America. You play a tournament in Chicago. You played a tournament in Cleveland, and so eventually you're playing against all kinds of D1 players, right? So it was like prep league before prep league. So it was pretty cool, and that really was my kind of indoctrination in the hoops.
So who would you say really got you interested? Who put the ball in your hand?
Pretty simple. My brother. My brother was a great shooter. He played at Niagara. He played for the Canadian national team. He played for Niagara. He got drafted by the Buffalo Braves, and my whole goal was to be better than my brother. So whatever he did. If he was a draft pick, I was going to be a first-round pick. He played for Canada. I was going to be the best player in Canada. He got, 5 scholarships. I got 100 scholarships. Whatever he did, I just had to top. Simple as that. That was my driving ambition every single day.
So I'm sure there were a lot of times where he was beating up on you, and in the gym or in the backyard or wherever you guys were playing at growing up.
Well, he's 8 years older than me, so. What he'd always do is just tell me, like, every time I want to play, he said, get lost, man, get lost. You can't play. Or like everybody playing over here, he'd go to court B, get lost, right? And see, now it's kind of interesting because, you could say that's pretty cruel, right? That's pretty mean. But I think he also knew what I was all about. Like, if you told me no, you tell me to get lost, I'm coming back, right? I'm not going to go cry in the corner. I'm coming back. And I think he knew that because I think if he saw me going the other direction, I think he might have changed his act. But and all his buddies were cool. So when he told me to get lost, his buddies would always keep me around, right? And when he wasn't there, his buddies would take me to play. And see, another thing is growing up, and I could never do this with my kids. Growing up in Toronto, there's a lot of men's leagues, beer leagues, the whole bit, right?
Yeah.
And we had no rules up in Toronto. You could play, in high school, I was playing on 5 teams. I played my high school team. I played on Lithuanian team. I played on a couple of beer league teams. I was playing 150 games, right? And
wow.
And so it was like I was hanging out with my brother's friends. And so they take me, what are they doing? They're going to a game, then they go to the bar. And I'm hanging out till like 2:00 in the morning on a school night because that's my ride, And I don't know how my parents, didn't go crazy or lose their mind, but that was the only way I could play. So I was playing from 8th grade on. I was playing in men's leagues because that was the competition I needed, and that really helped me a lot, especially like I said, growing up in a hockey country. That was my outlet.
So, I mean, you were always playing against older guys, it sounded like. So that's kind of where maybe you developed that that toughness and that character on the court. At what age did you really think like, all right, damn, I'm pretty good at basketball. This is what I want to do.
You know what? It's hard to explain, but I always said I was going to be an NBA player, and I told people that. You know, it made no sense. But when I started getting a bit around 14, 15, 16, you know, I was dunking on dudes, right? I was playing against men, which number one, they teach you how to play. You know, you don't take bad shots. They slap you in the side of the head. You wait your turn. You know what I'm saying? So you learn how to play the right way. That's number one. And like I said, then when I went to I think the biggest eye opening was when I went to the national team tryout. You know, and you know, being a high school kid, it's kind of funny. There's a few things that led up to it, but in the main camp, you know, night before camp opens up, you know, everybody's got to introduce themselves. And there were actually a couple of high school guys there. And, you know, you could see everybody else laughing, right? You know, just chuckling away. And the next morning we start camp and they put 10 guys on the floor and everybody kind of matches up, right? And you could see as soon as we got on the floor, I got him pointing at me. I got him, right? Everybody wanted me. And mid-morning of that first scrimmages we were having, the biggest dude in camp was this guy, Jimmy Zoot. He ended up being a great friend of mine and one of the top big men in FIBA. Jimmy's 7'1", big. I came right down the middle, went boom, right on him, right? Just dunked it on him. And you know, it's one of those moments, and you've probably had them in your career when it happens, you're going, oh, okay. It's something like, even now telling you about it, I can feel it. I can feel that moment. And all of a sudden your confidence goes boom. And that afternoon, we come back for the second round of scrimmages. Nobody picked me. I was the last guy anybody matched up with. So I go, okay, all right.
So that was it. That moment, that dunk when you went down the middle on my guy. That's when kind of you knew, we're like, all right, I'm pretty damn good.
Yeah, and even I was talking to, we had a great coach, Jack Donahue, rest in peace. He was there, and Steve Konchalski, who just retired as a coach. He had a great career in Canada coaching. We were having breakfast about a month ago, and he said, he goes, remember that time you came down and you dunked on Big Z? And he goes, I just looked at Coach D. It's like they did the same thing. They just looked and like, okay. So yeah, I think we all kind of had that moment, you know.
So how did that work though? You being in Canada with the recruitment process, because now obviously 16, you're a recruitable athlete. You being on the national team, you're going to get that interest right away. So how did the recruiting process go about?
Well, it's actually I was very lucky because like when I grew up, there was a lot of dudes that could play. We had a lot of guys that could play. Like they could play D1, 100% could play D1. Nobody saw them. Nobody knew who they were, right? And I got really lucky because I made the national team. So that was 11th grade, right? The end of 11th grade. And we went away on a tour. I came back. I had UCLA, North Carolina, everybody knocking on my door. Syracuse, almost like literally overnight. And so I went from a kid that nobody really knew about to, you know, being on, I saw some scouting report where I was ranked like one of the top, 3 small forwards in the country. And next thing you know, everybody was there. And so, I really felt bad because a lot of the guys that I played with that could have played, at the levels I did, never got a shot. But it also kind of opened the doors though, because when they came up to see me, they did start seeing other kids. And, lots changed since then. I mean, Canada's become a hotbed for talent. And, but that was really my, what kind of opened the doors for me making a national team.
So you go on tour, you getting all these schools interested in you, but you ended up choosing Minnesota your first year. Why did you choose?
Yeah, it came down to Syracuse, Minnesota, Marquette was in the mix, a few other schools. You're a kid, man. It's like, honestly, I was so tired of the whole process because, again, unlike today, there were no rules. like I used to hide. Like I'd hide. There'd be coaches at my practice, coaches already in my house, coaches in front of my house. Um, I literally called my mom, said, "Okay, put a bag out in the back steps. My buddy's gonna come grab the bag." I didn't go home. I just go hide somewhere, right? Go to my brother's house, go to a friend's house.
Yeah.
That's how crazy it was. I mean, coaches are calling in 2 o'clock in the morning. Um, like it sounds crazy, but it was. So by the end of that, my high school year, I mean, I was fed up with it. I was done. And, I liked Syracuse a lot. Marquette just won the national championship. Um, they were heavy. Al McGuire and Jack Donahue knew Al McGuire really well. But I went down to Minnesota for a visit, and at the time they had one of the largest arenas in the country, Williams Arena. The place was rocking. Kevin McHale was there. We ended up having the best freshman class in the country. It was ranked number one. Trent Tucker was part of my freshman class. Great shooter for the Knicks for a lot of years. We had some really good players. So it's at that point I just kind of went with it. Had a good visit down there and just rolled with it.
Let me tell you guys a little bit about our partners over at Bet Rivers Sportsbook. If you haven't signed up with Bet Rivers yet, now's the time, because they are offering a $250 match bonus for your first deposit. But what sets them apart is that they require just one playthrough to turn your bonus into cash money. With their new Rush Pay instant approval, withdrawing your winnings is safer, more secure, and more reliable. With basketball season right around the corner, there's never been a better time to get in on the action by going to betrivers.com today or downloading the BetRivers iOS app. Must be 21 years or older. Gambling problem? Call telephone number 1-800-GAMBLER. Yeah, so you had a good year for sure. You were all Big Ten, Big Ten player. I think I don't know if you averaged like maybe 8 and 7 or something as a freshman, or 9 and 7, but there were solid numbers. But then the next year you transferred back to Q. So that's where, I guess that's where you're supposed to be anyway, right?
Well, actually, to make it even more that's where I'm supposed to be, I didn't transfer to Cuse right away. So when I left Minnesota, the rules were different at the time. You could say yes to 100 schools. It's wherever you showed up, right? And I actually signed with. It came down to Syracuse and Marshall in West Virginia, and I actually signed with Marshall. And it was kind of a crazy thing that. A funny story. Bernie Fine, was recruiting me heavy, and Bernie and I got along great. And when I had to tell him, it was really hard for me to tell him I'm going to go to Marshall, because this is the second time now I'm telling him I'm going somewhere else. So Stu Aberdeen is the coach of Marshall, and he's the guy that was at Tennessee, recruited Ernie and Bernie, like Bernard King, Ernie Grunfeld. So great recruiter. So Bernie comes up and he says, "Hey," we start talking, and he said, all of a sudden he goes, what about Coach Aberdeen's health?" I go, "Oh, come on, Bernie. Like, seriously, man, you've been so cool through this whole thing, but now you're going to tell me I go to Marshall, this dude's going to die or something, right?" Guess what? 3 weeks later, he was dead, died of a heart attack. And so I was just coming back from Italy with a tour with the Canadian team, and Jack Donahue pulls me aside. We're at the airport in New York, and he said, "I got to tell you something." He picked up the newspaper, it was New York Post, and there was a thing that said Stu had died. So I was like, man, this is crazy. And so I literally get home from this tour. I literally walk in the door, and there's a phone call from Coach Boeheim, right? So they never gave up on trying to get me. And so, like I said, all roads led to Syracuse eventually. So that's how I got there.
Wow, that's a crazy story though, because you're really supposed to be at Marshall, and then Bernie mentioned something. Well, damn, Bernie, he kind of.
I go, "Come on, man, you can't go there. That's not cool." And like I said, Bernie was great. He was a great, throughout the whole recruiting process. And we said that, I go, but then boom, look what happened.
Wow, that's a crazy story. So you get to Cuse. What was your first impression of Coach Boeheim?
Well, I had the red shirt, right? So, they had the Louie and Bowie show, veteran team, Eddie Moss, all these dudes. So it was a really good team. And coach was a little different back then. He was a little rough on the edges. So like everybody thinks that he can get a little vocal now. He was even more so back then. And but I really like, I like the way he coached. I love the practices, man, because like you went up and down the court, you ran, you played, and like I said, he let guys play, he let guys do their thing. And so I enjoyed it. Like it was tough to redshirt because for the first time in my life I wasn't playing games, and that was hard. And it kind of took me a while to kind of bounce back from that. I kind of lost my rhythm, but it was good experience to go through. And like I said, you had Roosevelt Bowie and Lewis Orr, great guys to play against every day in practice. So it was definitely an interesting experience that redshirt year.
That's one thing I know. Like all the guys say, if you could play, if coach is going to let you play, he's not going to hold you back. He's going to let you go ahead and make some mistakes and go ahead and do your thing. Yeah,
and again, that's not to say that it's going to be easy to become one of those guys, right? So because when I started playing the next year, I mean, we kind of butted heads a little bit, and it was tough to become one of the guys, right? But once you're one of the guys, that's exactly it. I mean, I look at a lot of schools when you're looking over your shoulder every day, like who's coming in, who's taking my spot. And with coach, it wasn't like that. He wasn't over recruiting you. He wasn't trying to, get you out of your position. That once you're one of his guys, you're one of his guys, and you could just play. So I really appreciated that, and like I said, I really enjoyed playing for coach because like I said, practices were fun. Went out and played. He let you do your thing, and it was a great experience.
So I mean, you became one of those guys pretty quickly. I know that. What was the moment where you felt coach's trust in you?
Well, it was a rough first year. It was, for the team too, because remember, it was kind of a new thing. The Louis and Bowie era ended. We had a whole bunch of new guys. So it was a rough year. A lot of ups and downs, more downs, and then he actually benched me, right? And I said to him, it was on a bus trip, and they called me on the front of the bus. He said, I said, you know what? I can't argue with you. I'm playing like crap. I said, the only thing is, give me a chance to come back, right? Give me a chance. And I said, maybe understand why I'm playing. Like, because I was playing like a power forward, and which I can do for you, but I need to handle the ball. I need to do more of being me. And so it was a rough, like it was tough, but then we kind of had it out a little bit, and slowly I kind of worked my way back, and then we finished the season playing well. I was playing well, and then I got my starting job back, and we ended up winning the Big East championship in the Dome, the first one in the Dome. I got MVP of the tournament. We got snubbed. Because of the Big East was new, didn't have an automatic bid, and we didn't have a great year, so we got snubbed with the NCAA tournament. But we went to the championship of the NIT, and that was a great experience. We were steaming through some pretty good teams, but everything changed at that point. Once the way the season ended, everything changed at that point, and now I could just play. And I think Coach realized what I bring to the table. I still gave him what he needed. I mean, I played power forward most of the time on defense or in the bottom of the zone. I was rebounding, but he realized that with the ball in my hands and getting other guys the ball, that was my strength. And so we were good at that point,
Guys weren't doing that back then, though. Like what you're talking about, like 6'8", pushing the ball, making decisions. Like, I mean, I guess, Magic Johnson or whatever, right? But that's, and there weren't a lot of guys like you being able to do those type of things.
Yeah, there weren't a lot of. It was kind of like the new thing, right? But Magic, I know if I tell you my Magic story, is that Judd Heathcote was recruiting me to play with Magic at Michigan State, right?
Oh,
and I'm going, oh man, there's no way in heck you're going to put 2 6'8" dudes in the backcourt. No, it's not happening, right? And so flash forward, like I'm not kidding you, 20 years later, I'm looking for some video, and because I had this dunk on State and Magic was there. I wanted to try to get that video, right?
Yeah.
And Judd Heathcote gets on the phone when he hears I'm calling. And I don't know if you remember, Judd Heathcote had this big, deep voice. He goes, Leo Rautins. I keep telling everybody we won the national championship, and we would have been even better if I had Leo. I'm going, huh? Wait a minute, Judd. Please do me a favor. Tell me you're just screwing around with me. Just tell me you're joking. No, I really wanted you. I said, Coach, I didn't believe you. I thought there's no way in heck you're going to play me and Magic together. He goes, oh yeah. I go, oh, you got to be kidding me, right? So that's my Magic story in the middle of all this. But yeah, so at my size, I was doing different things, and I always felt comfortable. I always play. And part of me handling the ball and playing that way. Again, I was playing with older guys, right? I was always a smaller guy, and so I just played guard all the time, bringing the ball up, and then just fortunately in high school, my coaches and everywhere I was playing weren't trying to change that. They let me handle the ball. They let me play point guard. I got to Minnesota, same kind of thing. They, I think I was second in assist to Magic. They let me handle the ball, let me do all that. So that's always kind of been my game, right? See the floor, get people the shots, and I always really enjoyed moving the basketball.
Yeah, that would have been a hell of a backcourt. God damn, Michigan State. I'm glad
I wanted to cry. I wanted to cry when he said that.
Yeah. So let's go back to your first year at CUSA, March 7th, 1981. I know you know that date. That was the date you had the game-winning tip in. Then you guys ended up beating Villanova 83-80. Talk about that game.
That was a crazy game because again, we didn't have a great season. We finished strong right at the last couple of games, and then we had St. John's in the opener, and we beat St. John's. And then we had Georgetown. Georgetown's Georgetown, right? They were really good. We beat them in the semis, and then we got Villanova. And they had some good players. I mean, they were a good team, and that game just like both teams could have won that game at different points, right? Next thing you know, we're in the third overtime, and finally we're coming down to the last shot, and Coach. It's funny, too. It's like there were only about like 23,000 people at the game, right? And because it's spring break, students are gone, and spring break was just starting.
That's a lot.
The dorms.
That's still a lot.
Still a lot, but by dome standards, right?
Right.
Everybody thinks of 30,000. And again, it's one of those games where if you talk to anybody in the Syracuse, greater Syracuse, I was at that game. Well, we only had 23,000 people, so you probably weren't at that game, But so we played that. So it came down to that last play, and we're in a timeout, and coach calls a play for me. I'm the inbounder. I'll pass it, get it back, take it, get a shot. And so on the inbounds pass, I get it to Eric Sandifer, and as soon as Eric got it, Aaron Howard from Villanova overplayed me, but also, your teammates, right? So I knew when Eric got it, it wasn't coming back, right? So he put his head down. He just dribbled to the free throw line. And again, my man overplayed me. So he was on the top of me. I just went to the basket. Eric went up for the jumper, and he missed the shot, but I was literally right there. It just bounced to my hand. I tapped it in. So, it was kind of funny because a few different things happened. But, your teammate, that helps you, right?
Do you think that gave you guys momentum, or gave you momentum kind of going forward for, I guess, the rest of your career at Syracuse?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Cause like I said, I got the MVP of the tournament. I had a really good tournament. And it's kind of like all the bad that happened was like over with. And I think people realize, who I am and what I do. So we had a really good NIT run too. I ended up making all tournament NIT. We kind of got hosed in the championship game with Tulsa. It ended up going overtime. We had like 5 guys foul out. They had like Midwest referees, and it was crazy. But we had a great run and had fun. But for me personally too, yeah, it's definitely a time that I turned the corner as far as my Syracuse career goes, and from that point on, everything was a lot different.
So you did a lot of great things while you were playing at Syracuse, a lot of great games. But for me, I think the coolest one would be you have the first triple double ever recorded in Big East history, and you did it in 1983. I when I saw that, I was like, damn, that's pretty cool. That's something historic right there.
Well, it's kind of funny because there were a ton of games where I'd be like one rebound away, one assist away, or like really close. And I never really thought about it that much, but because people didn't really make a big deal about things like that back then. So you weren't really necessarily conscious of playing that way. But I remember looking back on it and I go, oh yeah, I guess, like I said, I was that close a whole bunch of times. So yeah, it's pretty cool. Like I said, anytime people remember something like that, that's kind of neat. And but that's the way my game was. Like it'd be scoring, rebounding, passing. It was kind of I tried to play the whole game.
Yeah, that goes to show you were a pioneer of guys playing like that, bigs being able to handle the ball, or big guards being able to handle the ball and make decisions. Did you? I mean, because you really could have got 20 a game, right? But
yeah. Actually, it's kind of funny. You know what, Eric? It's kind of funny. You look back, and so I was like a 17th pick, right? But you look back, and people all of a sudden say, okay, this guy's passing, maybe he can't shoot that well, and like people start questioning, your skills, which I can shoot, but the fact that I was like, and to be honest, you're a young kid, right? And I got caught up in this whole magic passing, like everybody's talking about it, so you get kind of caught up in it, and you probably overpass. But I look, if I could have easily averaged 5 more points, 3 more, like if I was a double guy, say 16 and 10 rebounds, right, and then whatever it was, 3, 4, 5, 6 assists, my stock would have been up even higher, right? But you don't think of things like that. Like I said, it's easily could have shot more, or easily could have scored more. But we also had some pretty good guys that could score, right? We had a very unique team. Like think about it, I'm the tallest guy on the floor, and I'm handling the ball. I'm basically the point guard, but I'm the power forward on D. Andre Hawkins is their center, 6'5", would just beat you up.
Yeah.
Tony Bruin could put his head on the rim, dunk it on everybody. Sandifer was a greyhound, and Jeannie Waldron. Jeannie was funny because Jeannie just wanted to shoot. He didn't want to handle the ball. He just wanted to shoot. So I remember we're playing Houston, and Houston's 5 slam a jammer, right? And everybody they're coming in like they're going to run us off the floor. Well, we ran them. That game was so fast. We just ran them. They were actually trying to slow down to play against us, and they full court press, and Jeannie just give the ball back to me. Take it.
Who is the guy? And you mentioned, Clyde Drexler, Hakeem Olajuwon at Houston 5 slam jammer. Who's the guy in your career? And it could be, I guess, it could be college or NBA. That was the guy you were like, damn, it's going to be a battle. We're going to war tonight.
You got to look at the NBA. I mean, Michael Jordan, obviously Magic, Larry Bird. Those guys were just so. You realize, man, you Dr. J. I mean, you realize there's just something different about these guys. Like on my rookie year, I'm getting ready. I'm working out 3 times a day to get ready for camp, right? And all of a sudden, I meet Dr. J for the first time, and he says, "Hey, I'm going to work out tonight. You want to come work out with me?" Now he couldn't work out they win the championship in June. This is October. He couldn't play all summer because he tore his groins, right? So he says, "You want to work out with me?" I said, yeah. And I'm at this workout with him, and he's like, boom, 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 boom. I'm just going like, I've been working out 3 times a day, and this dude's at a different level. I mean, it's just like you realize something about the great ones, that they're just different, right? They're just different. And so like, there were a lot of guys like that you end up playing against, and you're going, okay. This is not gonna be easy here, but it was always fun to go up against guys like that, though.
So you played in the league. You mentioned you played against all those guys. You get drafted 17th by Philly. You play 7 years in Europe, high level. I mean, growing up in Canada, we talked about it. It's a hockey country, right? So it's especially during that time. Like, is this something that, did you expect all this to be able to get drafted, play, travel the world, play basketball, and get paid for it?
Well, yeah, like I said, if for some reason I knew this was what I was going to do. I always tell kids a story. Is that, in ninth grade, my high school coach is my guidance counselor, and I went up to him in ninth grade, and because I hate math, can't stand math, scares me, right? And so I said, Coach, I said, what kind of direction can I go in here? Because I'm going to play in the NBA, but I want a career that ties into that, right? I don't want to be locked in some lab or out doing this. I want a career that connects to. And because I was that confident I was going to be an NBA player. This is ninth grade, right? And we end up, saying, I like to write, I can talk, broadcast journalism. So we actually came up with a plan in ninth grade that I'm going to play pro ball. I'm going to have this career, but I got to have this other career that's going to blend with it, right? So I can't explain it. It doesn't make a lot of sense for a Canadian kid back then to think he's going to play in the NBA. But for some reason, I had no doubt in my mind that was going to happen.
Wow, and we'll talk about the broadcast in a minute, but that's funny. You kind of manifested everything in your whole life, and it kind of came together how you saw it coming together.
Yeah, and if you think about it, like there's a few things that have happened, over the years, and I had a major back surgery 2 years ago, and I had back surgery when I was 11, and literally through my whole career in my life, I've never been without pain in my back, and I was terrified of people knowing, right? So even when I was in college, I never said much to people. Certainly wouldn't tell anybody in the NBA what I was feeling, and it's kind of so when I go in his doctor's office a couple of years ago, he looks at me, he goes, I got two questions. He goes, number one, how the hell did you walk into my office? And number two, how the hell did you ever play basketball? Yeah. And so I kind of look at the fact that I was even able to do what I did, a blessing, because, for example, look at NBA physicals, everything they do today. If I had one of those physicals today, there wouldn't have been a team that would have touched me. Nobody, right? So I'm very fortunate that my body, as bad as some things were going on, I was still able to do what I did. So I feel very blessed, especially the older I got and the more I found out about all these different things going on inside me, it's kind of cool that it was even able to happen,
Yeah. So you've had, you're a legend in Canada, one of the best to ever come out of Canada, a legend in SU, played at a high level professionally, made money overseas, traveling the world. But I think like the coolest thing is, both your sons, two of your sons were able to play high level college basketball professionally. And one of your sons played right here at Syracuse.
Yeah.
What was that feeling like?
Well, it was, first of all, I was nervous. I was nervous for Andy because Syracuse has kind of been tough on local guys, The crowd was like, there was a lot of pressure on local guys. I watched different players go through it over the years. And so I was really worried about, how that would be for Andy, especially, plus you're Leo's kid. You're always going to hear that. And I remember telling him, like, Andy, do you really want to hear that? Like, do you want to hear, like, every time you do something, Leo's kid? And Andy, Andy and I got a great relationship, and he says, no, man, that's cool. I like it. He kind of thought it was, he appreciated it, right? As opposed to getting offensive or say, why do I keep talking about you? He never acted that way. And that made me feel better because I knew that he was going to get that, right? And then, coach can be tough, right? And I remember Andy, I was on a road doing games, and I'm somewhere watching a Syracuse game, and coach is right into somebody like rah, 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 like this, right? And I called Andy up because I know he's watching the game. I said, that's you right now. That's you right now. He's telling you, you can't play, you can't do this. Can you handle that? He goes, yeah, I got it, right? And it's kind of funny because you flash forward, it was a game, I think his sophomore year, and you were playing, and coach he comes out during the game, and coach is in his grill and all over him, And so I called him after the game. I said, "You okay?" He goes, "Man, I'm just mad at myself. That was so stupid." I'm going, "Okay, you're not mad at coach. You're not blaming. You're good. You're good, right? You got this now." So yeah, so I was nervous about him going there because of all that. But then it once he was there and it was good, it was amazing. The fans treated him like he was family. It was cool to be able to see him, playing for coach. I mean, what are the chances? People never talked about this enough that it's one thing for a coach to be for me to play the coach for Boeheim and then, come back to a game 25 years later and I see my coach still there. It's another thing when I play for a guy like 25 years ago. Now he's coaching my kid. Like I don't know how many situations in all of NCAA where a coach coached a player's son that many years later at the same school, right? I thought that was incredible. And here, he's coaching Andy, and our kids, like Jimmy, Buddy, and Sammy, my other kid, they're playing together, and we're sitting there in the stands watching. I'm going, this is weird, right? This is weird.
Yeah, and I tell people all the time, Andy was, man, he was so good. People don't understand how good he was because he not only was he probably one of the greatest shooters I ever played with, but he was one of the better defenders, anticipation, just knowing how to play the game, and probably one of the better passers I ever played with. He kept getting better, and it was like you said, that stuff, when situations got tight, it didn't bother him. He could always make and I'm guessing it was, you passed down that trait to him, right?
Well, he's always had that. It's I remember when we used to have, we have this ability to kind of look at each other during games, and we had little signs. And I remember he's playing Little League, and Little League's the worst, right? Coaches are putting their kids at the pitcher, and Andy be the best pitcher in the team. And when their kids are getting in trouble, now all of a sudden he puts Andy in to save the game, right? And I'd always look at Andy, and he'd look at me, and I go, "Big balls." That was the thing, big balls, right? And I go, "You got this." He just look at me and go, "Yeah." And he'd come in and pitch, bump, bump, bump. And so he's always kind of had that cool in those situations. And it's actually funny. We were playing a game. I got to coach him for Canada too. We're playing a big game. We're playing Dominican Republic. They got, Al Horford, Charlie Villanueva, Garcia, all these dudes. And one of our guys, you win this game, you're going to the World Championships. You lose, you're out. And one of our guys gets hit on a rebound. It's like a 1-point game. And he's got to come out of the game. So I walk down the bench. And first thing, Mike Malone, who's my assistant coach now with the Denver Nuggets, Mikey goes, "Andy." I go, "Yeah." I'll walk over to Andy. First thing I said to him, I said, "You got big balls?" He just sprinted to the scorer's table, right? Didn't even look at me. Sprinted to the scorer's table, knocked down 2 free throws, and got the rebound. We win. So, like I said, we've always kind of had that, and he's always been pretty cool in those situations,
So, I guess this is the tough question right here. Who's the better player?
Oh, come on, E. Come on. Come on. I'd still kick his ass right now. Right now, I'd still kick his ass.
Yeah, that's the right answer. That's the right answer.
Hey,
right there.
I'll tell you a funny story. I don't know if you know Andy's buddy Ian Mack. Ian Mack played at Liverpool, and Ian's a tremendous trainer right now. He's one of the top trainers in the country. Works with all kinds of a lot with NHL guys and stuff. But so Andy and Ian used to work out all the time. So one day we go down to the Y downtown, and so we walk in, and I'm just helping them work out, both of these guys, right? I'm feeling kind of good though, right? I'm feeling a little spry for an old guy. And all of a sudden, this one guy walks in the door, empty gym. One guy walks in the door. I look at him, go, "You want to play?" He goes, "Yeah." I said, "Okay." I said, "Me and this guy against you two, Andy and Ian." And they're looking at me like, "Yeah, right. Yeah," they're laughing, right? So anyway, we go cross court at the Y, and we kicked their ass. We won 7 straight games, right? And I dunked. I did all kinds of stuff for this old guy, and they're like, we're talking trash. I go, "You guys can't play. You guys suck," right? So finally, all of a sudden, I go, "Oh no, something. Oh, my knee does not feel good. Uh-oh." So I find like I sit down this guy, I don't even know his name. I go, yeah, these guys suck. I'm not playing anymore. You got to be tired of this stuff too. And he's going, yeah. Yeah, go, come on, one more game. I go, nah, you guys stink. This is boring. You guys can't play, right? But I knew I did something to my knee, right? So we get in the car, we go home. I get out of the car, I go in the kitchen before they get in there, and I tell my wife, Jamie, I go, I need ice upstairs now. I need that. Don't tell them. I just need ice upstairs. I ended up having to have surgery on my knee for my one time I kicked their asses, but it was still worth it.
It was worth it. That's what I was gonna say.
It was worth it.
Was worth it. You got the last laugh.
Yeah, because I remember being upstairs, ice on my knee, and I could hear them down in the kitchen. Oh man, you should have seen the stuff he was doing. I go, okay, all right.
So talk about, we'll go into the broadcasting now, because it's funny that you said that earlier. In ninth grade, you kind of manifested that too, the broadcasting career, because now you've been with the Raptors for a while now. So how did, I guess, after you got done playing, how did that come about? Because you went through different channels and then got to the Raptors. So tell me about that.
Well, I tell you what, go back to Newhouse, right? I was at Newhouse broadcast journalism, and one professor, Dwight Jensen, was an amazing guy. And he said something I never forgot. He goes, your degree doesn't mean anything. He goes, your resume means everything, right? And I'm going like, well, you're in college, right? What resume? He goes, no, exactly. You got to do as much as you can in the business to build a resume. Your degree doesn't mean anything. And I never forgot that. So even though I was playing in the NBA, playing in Europe, whatever I was doing, and I had a lot of injuries, so that means I had time where I was off, right?
Yeah.
I built a resume. I was with the Sixers. I broadcast the Olympics in LA for CBC Radio in Canada. I was playing, and I did stuff, when I was in the NBA anywhere I could, right? When I was playing in Europe, I wrote a column in the Italian newspaper. Anytime I was hurt, like I'd come back, I'd do Syracuse games, or I did this and that. So I just built a resume. And so when the day finally came where, I can't play anymore, I felt sorry for myself. I'm on the operating table. I feel sorry for myself. I, shed a tear. Next morning, I wake up, make a few phone calls. I'm working in TV because I had a resume, right?
Yeah.
And so that was great advice. That was Dwight Jensen at Newhouse. That was tremendous advice that I never forgot. I tell kids all the time, you got to do that. You got to plan. And then what happened is it's amazing because when the Raptors came into being in '95, my dream was to play in Toronto one day. And there were rumors when I was playing, Toronto was going to get a team, and I would be there, but it never happened. So all of a sudden, Toronto's got a team, and Isaiah Thomas was the GM. Brendan Malone, who was an assistant coach for Syracuse when I was there, was the head coach. And so, I put my name in, and they literally had 1,000 people that wanted the job of the television analyst. They had videos coming in from everywhere. But here's the thing. I had a resume, right? I had experience. I played in the NBA, and I had one thing that none of those other guys had. I was Canadian. I was from Toronto, right? So I got lucky, right? The last part, I was lucky, right place, right time. But, what do they say? The harder you work, the luckier you get. I had the resume. So I was very fortunate. And then I remember even during negotiations, stuff like that, it's kind of funny because I was playing for the Atlanta Hawks. I got traded. I was playing for the Atlanta Hawks, and we're playing the Detroit Pistons. They had Isaiah Thomas, Kelly Tripucka, all these guys. And it was in Toronto at Maple Leaf Gardens, an exhibition game. And so, I'm here trying to make the team in Atlanta, right? We got Dominique Wilkins, everybody. I'm just trying to make the team. And there's an ad, a big thing in the newspaper, Leo Rautins versus Isaiah Thomas, Detroit. I go, oh man, I don't even know if I'm gonna play tonight, right? I don't know if I'm gonna get the game. And like Kelly Tripucka and I played in a Jersey Shore League together in the summer, and like they're introducing me, he's waving a flag. It's hilarious. And I end up playing. I play really well, I made some buckets down the stretch, and we beat the Pistons in Toronto in my only game I ever played at home as an NBA player. And so when the Raptors were looking for for an analyst, and this is before like all this technology, I clipped out. My mom had the scrapbooks. I clipped out this Isaiah Thomas versus Leo Rautins, right? And I clipped out this thing, and I faxed it to Isaiah with the Raptors, and I said, "Hey, you lost once, man. Don't make the same mistake again."
Oh, man,
and, yeah. So I ended up getting the job, and I've been there. Like I said, this is my 27th year.
Wow. And that's kind of something that it's just you too, right? It just kind of comes natural to you.
Well, I have fun. I enjoy it, right? I've worked with some great people, John. First of all, I think of the game as very simple. I mentioned his name before, Jack Donahue, coached Canada. He coached Alcindor Jabbar in high school, Power Memorial. He was a legendary coach. And Jack kind of taught me how to think the game, how to look at the game. I played many years for him, Canada. So I look at the game as it's very simple, right? And so when I talk about the game, I don't talk to an NBA player much different than I talk to a kid. The game is the game, right? It's a simple game. It's how you play the game. So I try to relate that when I do a game. John Saunders, who one of the best ever in the business, again, rest in peace, one of my best friends, passed away a few years ago. But John and I did the first 5 years of the Raptors together. And John's from Toronto, so we're two Toronto boys doing the games together. And John was, like I said, one of the best in the business. He was an original ESPN, ABC, college football, you name it, big dude in the business. And John always said to me, it should be like you and I are sitting on the couch watching a game, and everybody's just hearing us talk. That's the way it should be. And I've always kept that in mind, right? It was a great experience to work with him, and yeah, I just have fun. I just enjoy doing it. I'm not going to try to impress you with how much I know. I'm not going to try to throw statistics at you and knock your socks off. I'm not going to give you a lot of shtick. I'm just going to tell you what's happening and have fun doing it.
Absolutely. So let's transition into this year's Q's basketball team. I don't know if you've been, I'm sure you have been paying attention, but what's your take so far? I mean, it's been obviously an up and down year. We got a lot of things to work on. What do you see out there?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I haven't been able to see a lot, but I always try to pay attention. I think with anything, you need your bigs. You need your bigs to be active. You need your bigs to be good. And I think with Syracuse has shooters. You've got guys around that I think can make a big difference as long as your bigs are making an impact, especially the defensive end. And the one thing I did see, I was watching one game. I just thought that they have to, that zone's got to pop a little bit more. That's got to be active on the perimeter, right? Going back to, I remember again going back to Andy and Wes, their senior year. I talked to an NBA scout, and he said he never saw. He says Syracuse zone takes more charges than any man-to-man he's seen, right? And that's how good the perimeter was on that zone, right? They moved really well. And I think this group has got to, from what I've seen in a couple of games, if they're more active on the top and really have better communication, knowing where the ball can't get to and where they want to send the ball, and your bigs can be active and aggressive, they can be a pretty good team. Hey, you got to have shooters today, and they got shooters. You just got to bring the rest of it out now.
Yeah, absolutely. So last question, and we'll get you up out of here. When do they retire Leo Rautins' jersey at Syracuse? When does that happen?
Nah, man, they got way too many guys. I figure, hey, here's the only way it can happen. Andy wore 1, I wore 11. So somehow you got to take those two numbers, right? Make them 1, put all our stats together, and maybe you got a shot. Just retire a Rautins. Doesn't have to be a Leo or an Andy, just a Rautins.
No, I think
there's
be a little bit modest.
No, hey, come on, man. It's that it's a great program. There's been so many great players that have come through Syracuse. Just to be mentioned or considered or remembered, with everybody that's played there is an honor. And to have played there and been a part of the Great Big East when it came on the scene. We were the guys that started all that, right? you know, I remember, you know, I mentioned people, you know, we moved into the Dome, people saying, hey, maybe if you get 13, 14,000, we're setting records of 30,000. So many things started when we were there, that it's just kind of cool that people remember, and people still look at those days that they were fun. So with all the players that have passed through, hey, if just to say I was part of that, I'm good.
Well, I mean, you're definitely a SU legend. I think you're more than deserving. I just appreciate you taking the time.
Hey, hold on a second. Now I got to interrupt you. Because I got to say something right now, okay? Because you know what? I got to tip my hat to you, brother. You know, everything you're doing in the community, and how you try to care for people and reaching out and extending yourself. Not only, I always tell people when we come to Syracuse as players, Syracuse kind of takes us in, right? They kind of bring us into their family. And what you've done is you've given back in so many ways, and you've made Syracuse part of your family, and that's really special. And like I said, obviously we know each other, and I also follow everything on social media, and I see everything you're doing when I don't get to see you personally. And I tip my hat to you, because it's impressive, and it's tireless, and it's really something special. I think Syracuse is fortunate to have you in their ranks, and the city's fortunate to have you.
I appreciate that, Leo. It means a lot, man. It's definitely coming from you. Appreciate you.